You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. What did I say yesterday? Maybe it's a good thing that you're not me? After seeing the Nets lose to the Bucks? That statement rings true 24 hours later. Because you just saw one of the worst losses in Stanley Cup playoff history. There have been big blowouts before. In 1987, the Oilers beat the Kings 13-3. In 1944, the Canadiens beat the Maple Leafs 11-0. In 1969, the Bruins beat the Leafs 10-0. But let me tell you, without studying those games in depth, without having been there, without having a dog in the fight, I'd venture to say that this loss is right up there with those blowouts. This is a Game 5. A must-win game. Alright, if you're the Lightning, it's going to be really tough to win a Game 6 in the Coliseum when you're down 3-2. If you're the Islanders, you don't want to play a Game 7 in Tampa. I understand that anything can happen in a Game 7. But I think the smart money would be on the Lightning winning that game. That was a must-win game yesterday. And the Islanders play the worst game they've ever played in the Barry Trotz era. It's not even close. An 8-0 shutout. Let me ask you something. When did you turn it off? Because I turned it off. I did not watch the whole thing. I am not ashamed to say that. I'll tell you, I turned it off when it was 6-0. If you turned it off before then, I don't blame you. The Islanders just had the worst blowout loss in Stanley Cup playoff history in terms of margin of defeat since the Philadelphia Flyers got shut out by the Buffalo Sabres on April 21st, 2001. No team has been blown out like that in 20 years. Last year, the Islanders did get blown out by the Lightning in Game 1. The thing is, they scored 2 goals. They lost 8-2. It's still a bad loss, but it was Game 1. It may have felt like the end of the world, but it really wasn't. If this isn't the end of the world, it's as close to it as you can get. You're trying to find the positives in it. There were no positives. The entire team played like garbage. And that seems like an understatement. 8-0. That's a baseball score. That's not a hockey score. And you do it in a must-win game. Here's the funny thing about the 8-0 score. Count with me all the must-win games that the Islanders have played in these playoffs. Game 4 against the Penguins. Game 5 against the Penguins. Game 6 against the Penguins. Game 4 against the Bruins. Game 5 against the Bruins. Game 6 against the Bruins. Game 4 against the Lightning. And Game 5 against the Lightning. Did you get 8? Because I did. The Islanders, a team that has dominated in these playoffs in terms of winning must-win games, just gave up the same number of goals as must-win games that they've played in these playoffs. And that was their margin of defeat, too. If that's not irony, I don't know what is. I'm expecting Alanis Morissette to write a song about it. You know, a couple people have said to me, oh, this isn't over. They can force a game 7, and once you get there, anything can happen. It's tough to come back from this loss. Again, it's one thing if it's a game 1. And the thing that no one remembers about that is that 2 nights before, the Islanders were playing a Game 7 in Toronto. 2 days after that, they were playing a Game 1 in Edmonton. Edmonton is 3 hours behind Toronto. That's not an excuse for that performance, the 8-2 loss. But I think it does explain it a little bit. You just played a grueling Game 7. Forget the fact that they were up 3-0 after 2, and they ended up winning 4-0. That was a series where the Islanders were up 3-1. They lost Game 5 in overtime. They lost Game 6 in double overtime. They had to play a Game 7. Mentally, they had to be exhausted. They rallied through it. Give them credit. But then right after that, you have to fly to Edmonton. Again, a 3-hour time difference. A 4-hour flight. They were going up against a Lightning team that hadn't played since August 31st. I don't remember when they flew to Edmonton. But I'm guessing that they had a lot more time to get situated with the time difference than the Islanders did. My point in bringing Game 1 up is there are reasons why the Islanders got blown out in that game. And you can say, okay, that makes sense. Get them the next day. And the Islanders played well the next day. They got out to an early lead. It looked like that game was going to overtime. But then freaking Nikita Kucherov scores a goal with under 10 seconds left in regulation. None of that applies here. There was no time difference. The Islanders and Lightning were in the same boat in terms of rest. So facing the same conditions that the Tampa Bay Lightning faced, an even playing field, you get blown out 8-0. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm going to pick the Lightning tomorrow. If betting was legal in this state, I'd put money down on the Lightning. How can I confidently pick the Islanders? Am I going to be rooting for the Islanders? Of course. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be cheering for my team. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was confident in them. How can I be? The entire team played like garbage. I mean, who are you even going to start tomorrow in net? Varley gave up 3 goals in the first period. Ilya Sorokin gave up 5 goals. You can make the argument that the Islanders' best move is to start Corey Schneider. A guy who hasn't played all year. I'm not kidding. You can make that argument. I mean, you've got to make drastic changes here. Okay? You cannot lose that game and roll the same lineup out there. The Lightning made a change. Eric Cernak got hurt. Luke Shen came in. Yanni Gourde moved up. It resulted in the worst playoff loss in the last 20 Stanley Cup playoffs. You've got to get Wahlstrom in there. I don't care who you take out for him. Oliver Wahlstrom needs to play tomorrow. And you need to scratch Andy Green, and you need to scratch Noah Dobson. Put in Braden Coburn, put in Thomas Hickey, put in Sebastian Aho. I don't care. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, far be it from me to question Barry Trotz. Okay, Barry Trotz to me has reached like Bill Belichick level. Where whatever decision he makes, you have no right to question it because he knows more about his sport than you ever will. Didn't stop me from killing the Mac Jones pick, but I digress. If Trotz rolls that same lineup out there, I just don't see how the Islanders can win. I'm not saying it's going to be another blowout, but if you have any chance of winning that game tomorrow, to save yourself the indignity of seeing the Nassau Coliseum, the site where you won 3 of your 4 Stanley Cups, get closed out with your opponent celebrating on your ice, you've got to change some things up. I don't care who Trotz puts in net. If it's Varlamov, okay. If it's Sorokin, okay. If it's Schneider, okay. But I'm going to have a big issue if I don't see Wahlstrom and I see Andy Green and Noah Dobson. I mean, the funny thing is Dobson wasn't even a bad player for the Islanders yesterday. Noah Dobson was one of only 4 Islanders to not be a minus yesterday. It was Dobson, Josh Bailey, Anthony Beauvillier, and Brock Nelson. Ryan Pulock, the hero of Game 4, follows that up with a -4. Look, I spent all of yesterday praising Ryan Pulock. I don't want to kill him. But a -4? That's absolutely inexcusable when you're the best defenseman on the team. You're watching that game yesterday, and it's odd man rush after odd man rush after odd man rush. Varlamov never got a chance to breathe. Neither did Sorokin. For a defensive-oriented team to have that type of a breakdown would be a fireable offense in any other situation. I'm not saying fire Barry Trotz. Okay? I love Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz should get a lifetime contract extension. But, in any other circumstance, if you build this team as a defense-first team and they lose a must-win Game 5 by the score of 8-0, in any other situation, that's a fireable offense. I mean, you know that the goalies aren't going to have any confidence. You know that some of the players aren't going to have any confidence. They'll say that they'll be able to put this loss behind them. They won't. How can you? How can you put this drubbing behind you? I understand the 24-hour rule, but ooh, man, is that tough to do in this case. I mean, I'd say that all you did was just tick off the Islanders and they're going to have an offensive explosion. No, they're not. They don't have that offense. The Lightning have that offense. The fact that the Tampa Bay Lightning had this type of a game, I don't want to say it isn't surprising because it is coming against this great defensive Islanders team. But an offense that has Stamkos, Killorn, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, etc., yeah, that offense is capable of going off on any given night. I mean, here's what's going to happen tomorrow, okay? The crowd's going to be into it to start. It won't be as ravenous as Game 4 because it's a weeknight crowd versus a weekend crowd. That's okay. I understand that. I don't mind that. They'll be into it. But then when the Lightning score their first goal, assuming it makes the score 1-0 Lightning, crowd's going to be out of it. It has never been more important for the Tampa Bay Lightning to score the first goal of a game than it will be tomorrow. And if you go up 2-0 in the first period, forget about it. You may have people leaving at that point. Again, the series isn't over. Okay? You've got Game 6 in Uniondale. I'd say that I find it hard to believe that the hockey gods would let the Islanders lose their last game ever at the Coliseum, but the hockey gods weren't smiling on the Islanders yesterday. It's going to be incredibly tough for the Islanders to win that game. If they score quickly, hell, you know what? Let's get greedy. If they score too quickly, okay. The crowd will be into it. They'll be juiced up. And you won't have people checking the Yankee score constantly. But if the Lightning storm out to a quick lead, the Nassau Coliseum will become the Nassau Mausoleum. Alright, now it's time to preview Canadiens Golden Knights. And the reality is, neither team needs to change much. Both teams played well on Sunday. They both gave up 1 goal in regulation. Granted, they didn't generate a lot of scoring chances. The Golden Knights only had 21 shots and the Habs only had 28. But defensively, they were excellent. I guess I'd say this for the Golden Knights. Be a little more physical, because the Habs were by far and away the more physical team on Sunday. The Habs out-hit Vegas 40-24. It's tough to have that happen to you and win. Montreal, I guess you could bail out Price a little bit more. The 2 goals that Vegas scored weren't great goals or anything. Shea Theodore made an excellent pass to Brayden McNabb, and the puck had eyes. But in a perfect world, that pass wouldn't get through. And the Nicholas Waugh goal, Waugh had a few chances to get that puck past Price. After Price makes the initial save, bail him out. Give him some help. But other than that, I don't see either team changing their approach a lot. This series is going back to Vegas. I think that Robin Lehner is going to be motivated to start a game in front of his home crowd. He's a guy who can be influenced by external factors. And that's okay. He's human. There is a limit to that, but hey, it worked for him in Game 4. It can work for him here. I think Vegas will take a 3-2 series lead. The Golden Knights will win tonight. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. But it's not going to be about Clippers Suns. I spoke about that series yesterday. What I'd have to say today would be similar to what I said yesterday. I want to give you something different. Regardless of what happens in the rest of these playoffs, the story of these playoffs is all the injuries that have happened. Think about all the superstars that we've seen hobbled by injuries. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard. You know what the NBA really wants? They'll tell you that they don't root for specific teams. They do. But what they will tell you is that they want the best players on all playoff teams playing. No one wants to watch a Clippers team without Kawhi Leonard. No one wants to watch a Suns team without Chris Paul. You look at the Eastern Conference, the Bucks and the Hawks are in the conference finals. Their stars are healthy. Yes, Dante DiVincenzo, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish are hurt. But all due respect to those guys, they're good players, but they're not great. Those guys aren't as important to their teams as guys like Giannis, Chris Middleton, Jrue Holiday, Trae Young, guys like that. I mean, look, as a Nets fan, this is a hollow victory, but I think it's clear that if the Big Three was 100%, they'd be in the conference finals right now. That doesn't make up for the loss. I'm not trying to take anything away from what the Bucks did. Okay, I don't want to come off like a jilted Nets fan. The Bucks are a really good team. To take 4 out of the last 5 games from the Nets, that's really impressive. But it's the truth. The Brooklyn Nets would have won this series if James Harden and Kyrie Irving were 100%. And you know what? Maybe the Lakers would have won their series if Anthony Davis had been 100%. Maybe the Jazz would have won their series if Mike Conley was 100%. At the end of the day, you have these players as key contributors for a team throughout the season. They wouldn't be where they are today if not for players X, Y, and Z. Then to see those teams play their most important games of the year without players X, Y, and Z, that's tough. It's impossible for the casual NBA fan to get into it. It's tough for the diehard NBA fan to get into it. The NBA hates it. It wants its superstars playing, just like every other league. They're not different, but the NBA is more superstar driven than any other league. And just going back to Joel Embiid quickly, I know this is kind of a tough segue, a hard left turn, but a lot of people ask me why I didn't mention Ben Simmons passing up the dunk late in Game 7. He got the ball to Matisse Thybulle. Thybulle was fouled. He hit just one of 2 free throws. Then the Hawks scored on the next possession. The reality is, though, more than anything, that's an anecdote. It's a good anecdote. In fact, it's a great anecdote. It's the perfect epitomization of Ben Simmons' reluctance to put the ball in the hoop. But realize, that happened with 3.5 minutes left in the game. The score was 90-87 after Capella made the dunk. That wasn't a death blow for the Sixers. It was a stupid decision by Simmons. There's no question about that. The guy had a wide open dunk. Take it. But more than anything, it's just an anecdote. Again, though, it is a great anecdote. I understand what that personified. So what can be done about all these injuries? I think the answer is pretty simple. We need less regular season games and more time between them. I understand that the NBA will never cut regular season games. Unless they have to. Okay, they did it this year because of the coronavirus. They've done it in the past because of lockouts. But you can make it up on the back end. Let me ask you something. What would you rather see? Regular season games where stars are held out because of rest or injury maintenance that they really don't need? Or would you rather see playoff games with both teams at 100%? Can I guarantee that both teams would be at 100% if we had less regular season games and more time between games? No, I can't, but I can say that there's a higher likelihood of that happening than under the current system. I mean, we've seen an increase of injuries this year, and I understand that we're not going to have another year like this, trying to cram 72 games into 5 months. It was predictable that you'd see a lot of injuries, but we've had other playoffs affected by injuries. 2 years ago, Kevin Durant tears his Achilles. The Toronto Raptors win the NBA Finals. The 2018 NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving didn't play for the Cavs. The Warriors swept them. I could go on and on and on. But the point is that we've had injuries affect teams' chances in the playoffs before. I mean, there are some injuries that are unavoidable. If you're going up for the ball and you land on some guy's foot and you twist your ankle, yeah, that's unavoidable. But something like Jaylen Brown's wrist injury, Anthony Davis's groin injury, etc., if you have less games and more time to recuperate, you're gonna recover faster. The NBA hates when teams playing in nationally televised games rest their stars. You're not gonna have that happen as much if you shorten the season and give these players more time off. I mean, here's the thing. The issue that the NBA is going to have with this is taking games out of the regular season. That means less money. Will you make it up on the back end in the playoffs? Probably, but on the front end, you may lose something. Here's the thing, though. We can all agree that a way to lessen the impact of injuries is to give players more days off between games. It gives the body more time to heal itself. You won't have players pushing themselves to play through pain in back-to-back days. That's the way to stop it. But you can't elongate the season without removing games. If you do that, you're going to have the NBA Finals happening in late July every single year. Like, you can have the MLB trade deadline that day and Game 7 of the NBA Finals that night. No one wants that. I think one thing that we've learned as a society is that sports fans have become very used to the sports schedule. I don't think anyone really likes July hockey or July basketball. I mean, I don't like June hockey or May hockey, but that's a different issue. You can't start the season in late October and have it end in late July every year. The fans will get sick of it. The players won't like it because they'll have less time with their families. The only way to do it is to take regular season games out. I mean, here's the thing. We had the perfect opportunity to try that this year. You could have had the same setup, December to July, but instead of playing 72 games, maybe you play 50 games or 60, something like that. And let's see if that results in less injuries. Let's see if that results in less wear and tear on these superstars that are asked to carry their teams every single game. We didn't get that this year. We're not going to get it next year. And we're probably not going to get it anytime soon. But if you want to limit the number of injuries that you get in an NBA season, you got to shorten it and give these players more time in between games. I'll close this show out with some NFL Valk talk. You know what I'm going to talk about. Carl Nassib coming out as gay, thusly becoming the first active gay NFL player. The reaction to Nassib's announcement has been overwhelmingly positive, which really warms my heart. I mean, love is love, okay? It's 2021. I think we all agree as a society that if two consenting adults want to get married, they should be able to get married. If you disagree with that, get a DeLorean and go back in time. I mean, what makes this better is that Carl Nassib is a good player. Like, people brought up Michael Sam and said, wait a minute, how can you say he's the first active gay NFL player? Michael Sam never played in an NFL game. He just didn't have the speed for it, didn't have the frame for it. It just wasn't meant to be. Nassib has shown that he can play in this league. Last year, according to Pro Football Focus, he had a 66.1 overall grade. He's had a Pro Football Focus grade over 64 in every year of his career except his rookie season. So he just proved that you can be a good NFL player and be gay. Don't kid yourself. There are some people that think that those two things are mutually exclusive. They aren't. Okay, it's ridiculous that people think they are. But those people do exist. I mean, think about a player like Jackie Robinson. If Jackie Robinson had struggled for the Dodgers, that would have pushed the mass integration of baseball back a lot. Maybe there is no Roy Campanella. Maybe there is no Larry Doby. No Don Newcomb. No Jim Gilliam. No Monty Irvin, etc., etc. But because Jackie Robinson hit the ground running for the Dodgers, won Rookie of the Year, finished 5th in MVP voting, led the National League in stolen bases, he proved that black baseball players can hang with white baseball players. Carl Nassib just proved that gay NFL players can hang with straight NFL players. I mean, I can't imagine the courage that it took for Nassib to make that announcement. Obviously, this is something that he's been aware of throughout his football career. And he didn't come out until his 6th NFL season. That's perfectly reasonable. There's no time limit on coming out. There are people who do it at a very early age, and it's great that we as a society have progressed to that level. But there are people who wait a long time. They just don't feel comfortable enough to do it. That's their feeling. You're allowed to feel how you feel. I mean, look, even though I'm straight, I admire Carl Nassib's bravery. You don't need to be gay to realize the incredible courage that it took for Nassib to make this announcement. He had no idea how Raiders Nation would react to him, how his teammates would react to him, his coaches, the executives in the Raiders, the owner, the league itself. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. It's great to see. Don't kid yourself. There was a time not that long ago where if a player came out as gay, he faced the real possibility of being cut the next day. I mean, it took until 2015 for this country to legalize gay marriage nationwide. In fact, the 6-year anniversary of that decision by the Supreme Court is going to be on Saturday. So we've only had gay marriage nationwide in this country for 6 years. It's great that we as a country have progressed enough to the point where Carl Nassib's announcement has been met with overwhelming positivity. All in all, I echo Commissioner Goodell's sentiment that hopefully someday soon a statement like Nassib's won't be newsworthy. You know how if you're looking at a player's Wikipedia page and you scroll down to the personal life section, you'll see, oh, he's married, or oh, he has 2 kids. I hope that one day we reach a point where we're scrolling down player X's Wikipedia page, and in his personal life section, it says that player X is gay, and the person looking at that page says, wow, I didn't know that. Okay. And then just goes about their day. There are no words to accurately describe the bravery and courage that Carl Nassib had in making that Instagram post. Brooklyn Nets off-season preview comes your way tomorrow night. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that in Miami Heat, I give your 5-day roll-on about 2 hours.